There was Angela Merkel saying, wait, let's just wait for the dust to settle a little. Which way is it going?
Well, I think there is really a lot of uncertainty, and people are doing soul searching across the entire continent about not just the relations with the UK, but also about how the EU itself should develop. In terms of the relations with the UK, it seems to me that one principle that is crystallizing is that in the negotiations, one will insist quite a bit on all the four fundamental freedoms, namely, especially labor mobility, as a core principle of the EU and participation in the EU single market. Now, I know that some people may want to water that down, but I think this will be an extremely difficult thing to water down, because many member states will be affected, and also because it's really a fundamental value that many member states really think is important.
And when you hear things like the finance minister of Britain, George Osborne, talking about dropping the corporate tax rate from 20 to 15%, some in the opposition there saying it effectively turning the UK into a tax haven, what should be the response on the continent? Is the answer more Europe? Is the answer to have more harmonization between EU states when it comes to things like tax and fiscal policy?
Well, let me just say two things. I think on the UK side, this is actually not at all a clear conclusion from this vote. And I think the UK and the Brexiteers are really torn between two different camps. One is really about liberalizing neoliberal policies, no taxes, tax havens, and so on. And the others is really losers of globalization in the countryside that have lost their jobs and feel that this is lost due to competition from China and so on. So I think the UK itself and the Brexit camp is very torn between those two poles. On the continental side, I think the response will be, whenever such proposals gain strength in the UK, will be to become more reticent to any trade deals, because people will rightly say, why do we have to accept a tax haven that is doing unfair competition, whatever that is, in our single market? They may trade with us, perhaps under WTO rules, but let's not give them access to the single market. I think that's the clear attitude.
No, let's not give them access to the single market. What's your reaction to the announcement we heard on Monday that this long negotiated free trade deal with Canada will now have to be sent to each one of the 28 individual EU parliaments, something both the French and the Germans wanted?
Well, look, I think the trade deal is subject to parliamentary scrutiny in the European Parliament. And I think we need to emphasize that the European Parliament actually does its job. I mean, they really care about European consumers. And I think in principle, this should really be something where the EU has competence and where we have a parliamentary control versus the European Parliament control. But I admit that in the current circumstances, there has been so much political uncertainty that, right or wrong, many member states have said, no, we need our national parliaments to approve. Now, the problem is this could effectively mean that the trade deal is dead, especially given that there's even regional parliaments voting on this. So I think it's quite a setback for an open, integrated economy, and I think it's going to cost us certainly.
So you're suggesting there that the trade deal with Canada is in doubt?
Yeah, I think it absolutely. I think with 35 or 38 parliaments having to approve it, I think it's not at all a foregone conclusion that they will all approve it. So I think we could actually lose that trade deal.
All right. Many thanks for that. Guntram Wolff of the Bruegel think tank. Thank you for speaking with us from Brussels.
My pleasure.